Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for True show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for True show. It's a pleasure to have you back with us again, and I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, and we have a very special show tonight because it deals with our kids, and it deals with something we're suffering from in our country, a lack of communication, a lack of human kindness, of caring, and of using our technology to actually do something positive. Not just looking at the bottom line of financial gain, but the bottom line of humanity and the future of our youth, the leaders of our country, our kids, our daughters, our sons, our grandchildren. And we're very lucky to have all the way from Florida a very special guest. So I want to get started with it right away because I want to share something very special that he wants to present tonight. And Buddha, if you put his pictures up on the screen, I want to introduce Cory Wood, the CEO and co-founder of Public Wireless. And there you see it on the screen. A company designed to bring broadband access to schools and communities across America. And get this really well, and no cost to the recipients. He lives on the Florida Gulf Coast in Pensacola and grew up in a lower middle class home. And the economic difficulties of that upbringing that he experienced ignited his strong purpose to help others. Mr. Wood has been a serial entrepreneur the majority of his adult life, building businesses that serve his community. He also has a strong sense of family and has 4 children that he supports in all their extracurricular activities, ranging from soccer to football to color guard, you name it. There he is. His personal commitment and passion for his children motivates him to aid other children, other families, and spread his benefit of public wireless across the nation. Before starting Public Wireless, Mr. Wood owned several businesses in the communication industry, and for 17 years he offered home dial tone and cellular service under the Lifeline program. He's also been involved in building many large fiber optic networks across the U.S. to provide communication services to individual residences and communities. And there you see him with his family. Buddha, if you bring him up on the screen, I want to welcome Mr. Cory Wood to A Time for Truth show.
Thank you, Dr. Ben. I'm glad you invited me to be on this evening, and I look forward to chatting with you and your viewers this evening.
Absolutely. I think they're going to get a lot out of it because we're going to bring back something that for some reason seemed to be expiring or disappearing in our country, and that's just normality, being a neighbor, being a human being. So, thank you for taking the time tonight.
Absolutely. No, I'm glad to be here.
So let's get right to it. First, I want to avail our viewers really to your background. Tell us a little bit about your early years, how you grew up, and how they shaped who you are today.
Yeah, so I grew up in a very, I would say, low middle class home. My father was a mechanic. My mother was a homemaker. We didn't have a lot of money, and so my brother and I, if there wasn't something happening outside with the neighbors or a particular pickup ball game or something like that, we usually didn't have a lot to play with inside our house. We had enough money for the necessities, but there really wasn't much after that. I always knew growing up that I wanted to do more. I wanted to be involved more in my communities and giving back. I wanted to give my children and other community kids opportunities that I didn't have. And that's one of the things that really gets me excited about what we're doing here with public wireless and what we're doing with communities really around the United States.
Absolutely. And how did you decide on this career that you had as an entrepreneur? You had various businesses in the communications industry. How did that happen?
So my business partner, Chris Watson, and I met 25 years ago. And Chris was in the communications business from the Lifeline aspect. He provided home dial tone services back in the late 90s. And Chris and I became friends in 1998. And our friendship developed into business relationships. And Chris and I have owned multiple companies throughout the years in communications and provided communications really nationwide.
Nice. And just so the viewers don't get a confusion, what is or what was Lifeline?
So Lifeline was a program that was started to provide a discount for folks that needed to have access to home dial tone. It was really started in the Ronald Reagan years. It was a discount provided to folks to be able to have access to home dial tone. So if they wanted to have a home phone but couldn't necessarily afford the service through AT&T or whoever their local provider was, the Lifeline service would give them a subsidy towards that service. It would give them a discount towards that service so that low-income families would have access to communication services as well as other families across the United States.
Very nice, very, very nice concept. Because now you have public wireless. So tell us a little bit about what is public wireless?
Public wireless actually was started off of a phone call. I have been involved, obviously, in communications for so many years, and I have a lot of relationships in politics. And a very good friend of mine is a county commissioner in the county right next to us here in Florida, in Santa Rosa County. And shortly after the COVID shutdowns, Mr. Parker called me up and said, "Hey, we've got a problem. Half our children don't have access to the internet to be able to do their schoolwork from home. The schools are shut down. Wi-Fi is not available to the kids now. Mom and dad are trying to teach their kids at home now because the schools are shut down because of COVID." And there was not access available to the tune of about 50%. 50% of the students did not have access to home dial tone, which I think pre-COVID, none of us really understood what the gap was. And COVID really showed us quickly, what the issues were as far as infrastructure, what we needed to bring as far as infrastructure, what we needed to bring as far as connectivity and availability to families and communities really across the United States.
Amazing. And so explain a little bit to the viewers, what is this concept or this program? What is this affordable connectivity program?
Yeah, so the Affordable Connectivity Program actually was started right after the CARES Act came out in 2020. It was part of the funding to be able to help folks get connected. It was originally called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and in our current administration, they changed the name to the Affordable Connectivity Plan. And the Affordable Connectivity Plan was designed to be able to offer up to $100 discount for a tablet or a laptop to an individual, and up to a $30 a month discount towards broadband access. And one of the things that I knew from being in the communications business and from talking to so many people throughout this pandemic and the issues that everyone has had during COVID is that, everybody loves discounts, but if you can't afford the discount to start with, it's not really going to help you much. So what we did was we built a program around that discount. And instead of trying to offer this at a discount rate, we wanted to offer it as a no-cost rate. So we have relationships with manufacturing. We decided to build our own devices. So we built a 10.1-inch Android device. It runs on the latest Android 12 operating systems. We knew that we were going to be passing this out to children in K through 12 systems, college kids, communities. So we wanted to be able to protect the device as well. So we had manufacturing build us at additional cost a protective case that goes around it, because we want to, obviously give everyone a quality experience. We want them to be able to access and use this device anytime they'd like. And then we went to AT&T and we went to T-Mobile and we negotiated our rates to be able to get broadband access below the $30 a month discount. So now Public Wireless is proud to say that we're one of the only ACP providers in the nation that are actually trying to help communities and trying to help schools, but we've also brought it as a no-cost expense to the communities and the kids.
Well, it's amazing, and you're a very humble guy. I've spoken to you a number of times now, so I know I'm going to have to prod it out of you, because you're going to be too mild-mannered to say anything, but I think it's unbelievable. And I want to tell you what it reminds me of. When I was a kid, there used to be those little milk cartons for UNICEF. I don't know if you had those too.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And you know what? I remember the feeling when I was a kid, and, it was a great feeling. And I went out and I collected those coins in that UNICEF, milk carton. I think it was yellow or orange or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then we all brought them back. And there was a really sense of helping others. So, I think what you're doing, as you were talking, reminded me of the UNICEF and the integrity of really wanting to, for real, not for public relations or for you to look good so your company stock prices can go up. So I wanted to ask you, because you have quite an interesting mantra or reason for your business. And I wanted for you to bring it on this show, because I think it's something the country is missing. Yeah. So you spoke to me the other day and you say what you concentrate on rather than just monetary gain. Tell us about that.
So, we have been very blessed, Dr. Ben, and I tell you, the good Lord has blessed us with a lot. And for one of the things that is important to my family and to my kids is that we're able to give back to others. And we talked about this the other day. My personal home is kind of a hub for the kids that my children are friends with. They come here to get fed or to get advice or to just be loved on, and we want to care and give back to as many children as we really can. It's not really about profits all the time. Yes, we have to pay bills, and yes, we have to keep the lights on and feed our children, but to be able to offer this service and offer this opportunity to kids around the nation that otherwise would not have access to information and technology. I mean, information and education is what's going to give them the ability to be able to grow. That's going to give them the ability to be able to, have that education, to get that job, to be able to reach out and get a job, to get a loan from a bank, to be able to communicate with others. There's so many different things that we take for granted that a lot of people don't have access to, and we just want to be a blessing to them and offer that service to them as well.
Well, in today's world, you're a fantastic example of what can be done, and I know those viewers who watch this program and are watching it right now are probably saying, I need to do that, and it'll be like the movie Pay It Forward and some other movies that I've watched over the years, so I really want to acknowledge you and thank you for what you're doing. And so I want to ask you, because I'm sure as the viewers are listening to this, and that's why we're having this show for you, by the way. This is a show for you out there who are watching this and to really give you some honest help. So who qualifies for the ACP program?
That's a great question, Dr. Ben. So there are many different ways to qualify, and I'll list quite a few. If your student is part of the free and reduced lunch program at their school, if their school is part of a community eligibility program, they qualify. If you are in college and you receive federal Pell Grant, you also qualify. If you receive any type of federal assistance, so if you're on SSI or Medicaid or WIC or food stamps, Section 8 housing, different things like that, then you will also qualify. If your income is below 200% of the national poverty line, you'll also qualify. And also, if you are a member of a U.S. recognized American Indian tribe, you also qualify. So there are a lot of ways to get folks qualified and a lot of ways to get them engaged and benefiting from this program.
Well, that's really so important because, a lot of those kids would have no chance otherwise. And, it'd be great because, by giving them that opportunity, those are the future leaders. And, like your example, my example, I came from Cuba. We had nothing when we got here. My father had to start over again. And so, I can see that, the opportunities that were given me helped me to become who I am, helped you to become who you are. So this is a fantastic opportunity for these kids and these young adults to become who really they can be. And, it's amazing. I mean, I wanted to say something to you because I'm president of a drug education program. It's international. It's called Drug Free World. And I happen to run the Americas chapter. And one of the things I've been very concerned about in the last few years is the vaping, because this vaping has become rampant in our youth, in our college students. It's caused a lot of lung diseases. The recent studies through the National Institute of Health have shown that they actually tend to smoke more, so that the idea that vaping was going to be a solution for smoking has turned out to be false. They get addicted to the nicotine and the flavorings. And even though supposedly there's nicotine-free flavorings, the reality is that the Mayo Clinic found that almost all of the flavorings had nicotine. And even though they were labeled as nicotine-free, so kids were and are getting addicted. A study by the New England Journal of Medicine shows the kids that vape start doing binge drinking, start taking other drugs, get cocaine, and that 50% who weren't taking marijuana end up taking marijuana. And to me, that's been a real concern of mine, is how do I get this drug education program out to these kids, safeguard these kids so that they don't get addicted, their brain development goes normally, they don't have a problem with their IQ for the rest of their lives, because these changes from the drugs are actually irreversible, which I didn't realize until a few years ago when the studies came out. And you mentioned something that you were willing to do, and again, you're too humble a guy to say anything. So I'm gonna actually ask you, can your company actually put this education program on the notepads, so not only can these kids educate, but they don't go high and get addicted to drugs and not learn in the first place?
We can, Dr. Ben. In fact, one of the unique abilities that we have, because we have decided to build our own devices, is we can upload any software that we want to. And we partner with a lot of different school systems and colleges and universities all over the United States, and they have requested specific educational software, apps, different things to be uploaded to their students' devices. And we would love to be able to offer that service to your viewers and to the students that really we service really around the United States. Public Wireless would be honored to be able to have your education system on every single one of our devices that go out nationwide, because drug addiction is a real thing, and we want our youth to be able to have access to the help that they need, to the prevention services that they need, the understanding, the education. That's very important to us, so we would love to do that with you.
Well, you know, consider it done, and I want to share with you something, is that like public wireless, Drug-Free World is provided free of charge. We have the same philosophy as you do, that what's more important to us is to actually prevent our kids from getting addicted. There's a tremendous amount of violence going on in our country, and people are trying to find out how to reduce it, and, you know, are blaming the police. And I don't believe in blame. I think we got to take a look at ourselves and look as mothers and fathers that we need to be home with our kids like you are, and we need to provide the education. The fact that you can put this on the notepads is going to get it out on a magnitude that's necessary, because unfortunately they get on the internet, and the internet, I can tell you, is full of information that's actually not scientific. It'll tell them that marijuana is natural, that it grows in the ground, that it's organic, that it's no big deal, doesn't cause anything. But all these things from the NIH and the CDC are totally fallacies, and scientifically it's not true. So, you know, we have the same philosophy as you, is that we're in the middle of something that's a crisis, and this drug crisis needs to be controlled. So, first of all, thank you. I want to thank you for offering that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's an honor for us, Dr. Ben, to partner with you and to offer your educational software to the children and the teens and the college kids and really the communities nationwide. We're really looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And, you know, I want to share something else with you. I trained at the Memphis Veterans Administration Hospital to do my surgical residency. And a friend of mine down there, who actually was a baseball player and took a lot of teams to Dominican Republic and the Caribbean, Dr. Les Binkley, who actually is a professor at the University of Tennessee Dental School in Memphis, called me the other day, and he said to me, you know, Ben, we want to have you down here because we want to recognize you as Man of the Year, because you've been all over the country educating on drugs. And he says, I don't know what other dental alumni from the University of Tennessee has done this. I spoke to the dean. The dean said, let's do it. And so I tell you what, when this happens, I'm going to invite you down, and you can be there with Les and I, and we can see how we can get these notepads out down in Tennessee, and also to see how we get dentistry involved, because I want to let you know that the dental profession has been very active in preventing drugs. I've been working with the ex-president of the ADA, Chad Gahani, the former president, you know, Dr. Cesar Sabates, who's a Cuban guy like me, and the International College of Dentistry that I'm a member of, with Dr. Ira Tatunik, Dr. Laura Medrano, many, many people, and the Pierre Fouchard that I'm a member of. And, you know, we want to get this out so I can see that we can work together and, you know, educate our kids, decrease the drug use, and bring back, I got to say, like what you're doing with your kids. It's like the way you are as a father, the way you're parenting your kids, it makes me go back to Connecticut, where I grew up back in 1964.
The family unit is very valuable, Dr. Ben. A lot of people discount it nowadays, but it's very important for families and especially fathers to be present in their children's lives and to give them guidance and just to be there for them.
Right. And you know what? I believe in acknowledging people. So since you and I are going to meet him soon, I want to acknowledge somebody, actually a few people. One is a former New York Jet football player, Noah Burrows. He played safety. He's now trustee in the Hempstead area. And when he heard about the idea, because he's a big Drug-Free World supporter, he said, Dr. Ben, you tell Mr. Wood that we're going to get this into Hempstead, and they actually are very excited. He's going to speak to a friend of his, Gary Brown, who played for the Patriots, to see if we get you on Long Island. And then a real good buddy of mine who's a Harlem Globetrotter that you're going to get a chance to meet. His name is Robert Hunter. He played with Wilt Chamberlain, with Curly Neal, and he and I go around the country with basketball games and Drug-Free World education. So now we're going to have public wireless in there, and, you know, we're going to bring normality back to the country. How's that sound to you?
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it.
Beautiful. And you told me you got a Dallas Cowboy works for you, right?
I do. So we are very fortunate in the Texas area. There's a gentleman by the name of Bashir Yamini that works with Public Wireless, and he is just doing a fantastic job getting communities and schools and colleges engaged really all over the United States. So I just want to just let him know publicly I appreciate his hard work and all the effort that he puts in to helping the folks really around the United States.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got to acknowledge all the people who are doing so many things. One of the other things I was going to tell you that after you spoke to me and the person who actually introduced me to you, which is a rabbi, Rabbi Abdul Rahamonov, I spoke to him and, I was explaining to him. So he introduced me to another rabbi, and that rabbi actually knows people in the New York Knickerbockers, the basketball team here in New York City. Mm-hmm. And so it could be that, we'll be able to do something within there also. And, I'm looking forward to it. So, it's very exciting to speak to someone like you. Brings me back into Connecticut, back when I remember we had a softball team. It was called the 72s, because that's when we graduated in high school, Manchester High School. And my buddies played on the team. Then we had another team called Stakeout, because that was a steak place. So we had a green uniform. And it was a lot of fun, and it seemed like the world was normal. You could go out, nobody was getting killed. You could walk out at night. You can go trick-or-treating without worrying about anything, And so, I look forward to reestablishing that. I wanted to ask you something.
Yeah.
Why did you decide with your company to take on this extraordinary leadership role?
Dr. Ben, I'll tell you, that's a great question. And, I really, it's really from a humble place in my heart. I really care for people. I really just, I've got a special spot in my heart to just care about people and reach out to people. I've got a lot of really close friends that have been friends for many, many years that we became friends for specific reasons. Whether or not they were going through something or needed something, or I could help them out, or, however that was. But it really came from a instance in my childhood where I remember, my brother and I, when we would be driven to school by my father before he went to work. And if we got good grades every week, on Fridays, he would stop us by McDonald's and he would buy us a biscuit and a drink. And that was kind of our, prize for getting good grades that week. And I remember there was a homeless man that slept right behind this McDonald's. And every week my dad would always buy extra food and extra drink for that particular gentleman. And he would have me and my brother, swap back and forth every week to take him something to eat and take him something to drink. And, having those lessons taught to me as a child made me realize that, everybody goes through a specific situation in their life that causes whatever outcome they're in. That doesn't mean that they have to stay there. That doesn't mean that people don't care about them, that people don't love them. And we really want to just help folks. That is really our goal. We just have a genuine, true heart to reach out, to really care for folks, to give them the opportunities that a lot of people don't have, to give them the opportunities that I didn't have. That was very important to me. So that's really our heart and our goal behind, really what we're doing at Public Wireless is just to give back and to care on folks.
Beautiful. Wow. What was your father's first name?
His name was Jim.
Jim. And what's your brother's first name?
His name is Andrew.
Well, to all the viewers out there, let's take and follow the example of Jim, Andrew, and Cory Wood and Public Wireless, and let's help our world. When we look at wealth, is wealth money or is wealth people? I think the answer is clear. And so let's do that. Let's help each other. Let's move forward. And unfortunately, we've come to the end of the show, so we've got to end off. But thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you, Dr. Ben. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. We'll see you again on the next episode of A Time for Truth show.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet